Okay, so mesh is basically nothing but the fabric that we use in the screen. So in the earlier days when screen printing started, people used to use silk, the fabric made out of silk. That's why sometimes screen printing is also known as silk screen printing. But nowadays in modern times, we use polyester, a very fine polyester to make the screens. Okay, so mesh is nothing but crossing of threads per square inch. It's like when you weave the cloth, so that intersection between the mesh is called the mesh count, right? So if I know you can't see even if you zoom in, but there are threads crossing to each other. So those crossing lines in between, right? So that is known as the mesh count. That means the higher mesh count, the lesser the opening, lesser the mesh count, higher opening. So it's a vice versa, okay? So when and where do you use these different types of mesh count is all depend upon the design, okay? For example, this design, if you can see, this is a solid color and it's a solid vector color or a spot color. So this kind of design or designs like, a name, letters, numbers, or sometimes you have a very big artwork, just a single color, or multiple colors as well. So during those time, you use the lower mesh count so that the ink can pass through the screen easily. Otherwise, if you use a higher mesh count, it will be very tough to pass the ink through the mesh into the garment. So that's why we use a lower mesh count. Higher mesh counts usually we use for halftone printing or very fine details. Sometimes we even use for the pocket printing. You have these small, very tiny little letters that we use. For that, we use a higher mesh count. Alright, so lower mesh count in t-shirt printing, we use 140 mesh count. In India, we go by numbers. So in India, we call 50 number or 50 number. So if you're from India, go and buy the 50 number mesh count in polyester for garment or 140 mesh count if you're from other parts of the world, okay? So you need to only keep, for now, you only need to keep the 140 mesh count for any kind of vector artwork, solid or spot, okay? And for halftone printing, you go and get the 200 mesh count, or in India, we call it number 80. You can get number 80 or 200 mesh count. So you just need to keep only these two for now, okay? Later on, you can experiment once you get the flow of it, once you understand what is this and what is that. That time you can go and experiment on different mesh. But for now, we are only going to use these two mesh count, which is more than enough. Okay, so the polyester mesh comes in two colors, white and yellow, okay? The yellow one looks something like this. And of course, the white one you have already seen. So what is the difference between these two, okay? If I go by definition, the white mesh has more light refraction than the dyed mesh, which is the yellow mesh, meaning light will scatter when it is passing through the mesh and you'll be able to get more light into the frame. This mesh, the white mesh, which is something like this one. So the white mesh is most suitable for printing vector artworks, solid colors like this, names, numbers. And sometimes, when you have a large printing, only solid colors, then white mesh will work wonders because here you can get the low mesh count. But if you're talking about those halftone printings and some detail artwork, I would definitely recommend the yellow one. This comes in the higher mesh count. The white one also you get in higher mesh count, but for some reason the dyed yellow one, this one, it gives better results because it has less light refractions. So it gives you fine details in the printing, like the sharp edges, crisp printing, and also resulting in capturing a true image. So whenever you are printing any halftone or any design that has halftones, try to use the yellow mesh, which will give you better result overall. Okay, these are generally a little bit expensive than the white mesh, but if you can, go and use the yellow mesh for any half. All right. Okay, so now that we have understood a lot of the things like stages in screen printing, all the machines, the equipments, inks and chemicals that you need, now it's time to go to the next lesson, which is about printing. This is the most exciting part, right? You all been waiting this. So in the next lesson, we are going to see from start to finish. We'll not learn how to design because this course is not about that. This course is about screen printing. So we'll have a design and we're going to do color separations and all the steps that I just mentioned earlier, and we'll see what are the things we will do. We'll discuss a lot of things in the next class. So see you all in the next class.